Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sandeman. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build great teams. My guest today is Joe Wolin from Team Procure. Now, I'm not exactly sure what he does, but by the end of this podcast, I'm going to know, and so are you. Okay. So, Joe, tell me, what does Team Procure actually do?
Yeah. So Team Procure is a software platform for companies that need to manage their purchasing. And more specifically, we would call that professionally procurement. So the professional operation of purchasing items for an organization. So we offer a platform. It's a cloud-based platform for companies to manage their purchasing with different projects in the organization and be able to work with suppliers to buy the items and generate the purchase orders that they need to run their operations.
So let's say I'm a home remodeling company. I do 3 million, 4 million a year. My average project is $300,000 to $500,000, and I do kitchens and baths as well as some whole house remodels. How could I use your service? And let's say I'm using pick a job trade, some software. How could I use your service?
Yeah, so great question. So our platform is well suited for a contractor in that we can help them manage their purchasing by project, including budget and approval. So let's say you're speccing out a project for a house and you've gone through all your calculations and you've estimated that all of your direct spend items for this project are going to be a certain amount. You can break those costs into one or more than one budget. And then when you're actually doing the purchasing, you can allocate the spend of each of those items against the budget and keep track of your overall spend. So obviously, when you're buying things that are hundreds, it ends up into thousands, and thousands ends up to 10,000s, and 10,000s, it keeps going. So
Right.
this is a way to keep the spend under control and also get visibility into who in your company is buying these items. And also, if the item is past, say, a certain threshold, you can get a special approval needed for it before it goes to final buy. So that's really a way to keep your spend organized. Tools like QuickBooks and these sort of softwares for accounting, they have some level of purchasing, but not nearly the functionality that's in a tool like Team Procure.
So let's say I'm buying all my stuff from Home Depot or Lowe's or HPN, the local lumber company. I have an account there, and I just buy it because it's easy. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't play them against each other. I just have my Home Depot or Lowe's or HPM account. I just buy all the stuff there. They put together a lumber package. I buy the paint. I buy all the stuff and don't think about any of that. I just buy it all the same place. Can you help me improve on that?
Yeah. I think within an organization, depends how large the organization is. So typically when you centralize your purchasing, the first thing to do is have your organization handle or create a process where people in the organization are creating a purchase request before it goes to purchasing before it goes to a actual purchase order. So there has to be some level of discipline within the organization to create a workflow that makes sense. And sometimes that's a dollar amount, sometimes it's project-based approvals. So, and also depending on the type of item that you're purchasing. Typically in procurement, you break purchasing down to direct spend and indirect spend. So if somebody in your organization needs to go buy, say, a ladder to improve the productivity of the workers in your organization, that would be an indirect spend project, most likely. But if they're buying, like you said, a lumber package for a project, that would be the direct spend related to the project of an organization. So my recommendation is that you sit down formally as a team and figure out what the structure looks like. That makes the most sense, and then use the software to help facilitate that operation. But typically, purchasing starts with the purchase request, and that's then approved by somebody who has the authority to make a decision whether that should move forward or not.
Well, there's an estimate, right? Somebody, and then once you get the contract, then somebody's going to say, okay, we need to buy this stuff, whether the lumber package or the paint or whatever. Many times in small organizations, it's a project manager because they haven't got a purchasing agent. So the
Yeah.
project manager manager just says, okay, I'm going to order all this stuff from Home Depot or wherever, and that's the end of the process. So
Yeah.
how do you improve upon that? Like maybe I need to get a bid from two different people, or maybe I need to actually look at the numbers as opposed to just writing checks and going, it is what it is, and I
Yeah.
can't do anything about it.
Yeah, for sure. So there's probably a balance there. And for some items where there's not a lot of opportunity for negotiation, then yeah, you just go and buy those items. But for other items like maybe window packages or door packages or something like that, it's worth going out for bid. And in the case of procurement, we have the ability to, in Team Procure, we have the ability to generate what's called an RFQ, request for quote. So you can take a purchase request inside the organization, and instead of converting it right to a purchase order where you're buying the item, you can convert to a purchase request. And, or I'm sorry, you can convert to an RFQ, and that means you're inviting multiple suppliers, and they're reviewing the items you'd like to purchase, and they're giving you back a quote, and then you can compare that quote in like a matrix, and you can then
So
determine
this
which items
normally
to give you.
people would say they don't have time to do it. So is this, let's say I've got want to buy, I don't know, a Pella window package or something, and I need,
Yeah,
it's 50,000 bucks, pick a number. And so I'm going to have Lowe's quote, Home Depot quote, maybe try direct from Pella, maybe the local lumber yard. So I can, because most people don't do that because it's too time consuming. They just think it's not worth it. So
yeah,
your system would make it easier to do. So I could actually send out a request for quote for three different companies and come back with a number.
yeah, absolutely. It would save a huge amount of time. And once you get those quotes back, you can then cherry pick which suppliers you want to work with. A few clicks, pick the items you want, and then generate the purchase orders to send out to those suppliers with emails and attached purchase orders, everything. So you can certainly do something like that in a spreadsheet within reason, but at some point it becomes maddening. So we have professional construction companies that do RFQs that are incredibly complex with hundreds and hundreds of items. They have to look at a breakdown of all of the costs and services with these items, choose the final selections, and then proceed with the generation of the purchase orders. And that to do that manually without a piece of software to help you is very tedious. In the case of a small contractor, it's still, I think it's an important process to get down because the savings can be significant. So even if you're saving 10, 15%, that's adds up over time. And doing an
Well,
RFQ
sometimes
and
the
getting
net
used to
profit is
that
only
is,
10% anyway, right? I mean, their whole net of the
yeah,
whole company is 10%, so it's equal to their profit. I
yeah,
so tell me somebody that did it the old way, whatever the old way is, versus then they got your software and did it the new way. Maybe you know name a specific company called ABC Construction, but can you show an example of how they went from the conventional old way of doing it to your way of doing it and how it affected things?
yeah. So I think the traditional route is spreadsheets and emails. So that only goes so far until I think it just becomes very tedious for the organization. So we've helped companies get rid of spreadsheets and emails and use Team Procure to manage these projects, and definitely have had success in that. It's I think having an audit as well for the organization is important. We have some organizations that need to literally have an audit trail to see where were these items submitted to which suppliers, who approved these, and have an actual generated final document that shows the history of the entire project. So that's an important process as well for accountability that, yeah, you did go out and get a couple bids and you weren't just, um, having a one-way relationship with the supplier that may not always be as transparent as it should be. So that's something with an RFQ that's important is it gives transparency across the buying process that you are taking the project out for bid, and it's good for both sides. In the case of a contractor, you want to show your customer that you are trying to source the best price for something and not just buying your friend's window package and maybe giving you a kickback or something like that.
Right. So, how do you help somebody actually set this up? And then the other question is, how do I need to spend 1 million, 5 million, 10? How much money should I be spending on materials to make this system a worthwhile investment of time and money?
Yeah. So every organization has, I guess, their own their own goals. We're not in a position to try to tell them how to run their business, but we do work with companies that are in the billion-dollar range, all the way down to very small organizations. And sometimes the focus is, I think, baby steps, right? Start with a centralized purchasing system where the organization gets used to submitting a purchase request for items instead of just buying it last minute on emergency. And then the next might be, okay, you've accomplished that as an organization. Let's move forward to the next step, which might be, doing audits on your suppliers, getting them in the system, make sure you're doing a review every quarter or annually on the supplier to make sure that they're a supplier that you want to work with as an organization, that you're giving feedback on how they're treating you as a buyer. So I would say it's an ongoing process. It's not something that's going to just suddenly transform overnight. And I mean, they call these things digital transformations because they take time. So it's I would say for the purchasing professional, the purchasing manager, it's their job to use the software as a tool. And it's obviously up to them to try to get their organization to manage best practices. So we can give advice on best practices, but it's ultimately the organization that needs to make those decisions in terms of how much dollar amount before that makes sense to use, say, an RFQ, for example. Again, I can't make a blanket statement on that, but we've had companies use RFQs for very small things and still continue to do so because that's the mandate from their organization. But it's on a organization basis that they make those decisions.
So if I'm picking a million or so on materials, it would make some kind of sense, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think
Because
there's
most of the guys,
very
I would
good
say
case for that.
podcasts are going to be spending at least $1 million on materials.
Mhm.
And then it would make some kind of sense. And also, now since COVID, what happened is, how much it costs is not as important as how fast you can get it. The
True.
supply chain just crashed during COVID, right? And I don't think it's totally ever recuperated. I mean, it's getting better, but it's not back to where it was. So can you, on your request for proposal or request for whatever, talk about how long it's going to take to get it, what their track record is? Because I know some people order Windows, it doesn't show up for 6 months, which is, I'd rather pay more and have it here in 3 weeks, right?
Yeah. Part of the RFQ process would be this for the supplier to put in a delivery date and also payment terms, those sorts of um, conditions in the RFQ. And you can spec those out as I need it delivered by this date, or the supplier could put it in. It can be available on these dates. Part of like, okay, is this supplier, have they been reputable or not? That's where having a supplier database is useful because you can leave feedback, say on the last order that, yeah, I gave them 5 stars, it delivered on time, or one star because this window company delivered 3 months late and lied 5 times. So
Right,
you need to put that data somewhere. It can't be hidden in an email. No one's going to find it. If somebody worked for an organization and now they left 6 months ago and they're not around anymore, it's like somebody remembers, yeah, we used this company, but nobody remembers that they were a failure to buy from. So
right.
inside of Team Procure, we have a database to manage your suppliers. Everybody in the organization can leave feedback. You can rate them as preferred to work with, not preferred to work with, do not work with. Sometimes it's as important to know to not work with a supplier than to work with them. So we can maintain that kind of centralized purchasing database inside the organization, inside the software.
So basically you're saying that even if it's a superintendent or a project manager that's doing the purchasing, because most of the companies we work with don't have a purchasing guy, don't have like a purchasing manager, too small to do that. Some of the
Right.
organizations got it, generally the superintendent or the project manager. This software can help him or her do a better job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, let's say you have somebody who's managing the goods receipts of the organization. They're handling doing the receiving of the goods and comparing them against the purchase order and the invoice and doing that. We do what's called a three-way match on that. So that's very important. But during that goods receipt operation, especially in something like construction, that's where you could have an opportunity to leave feedback in the system, right? That the goods were damaged, goods were delivered on time. That's part of that feedback of the supplier you're working with is how well they're treating not just the buyer, but the people on the ground that are getting the materials, and are they coordinating properly? Are they a good supplier to work with or not?
So my experience is that this is some information that should be documented, but it's not. Because if they show up with damaged goods, if they are late, if they, run over the flowers when they back up the truck or pick one, right?
Yep.
Generally, there's no place to put that information. And a lot of organizations keep making the same mistake over and over and over again because nobody's documented and said, look, every time we order from this guy, he's, the day late, even though he says he's going to be there.
Yeah. Another thing from a logistics standpoint, so Team Procure has a basic inventory management part of the tool. And the thing that this allows is when you're receiving goods from the supplier, you can define it at a location. And also when you're doing a three-way match, you can actually do a partial receive of goods. So if you ordered 100 of an item and you only got 75, the person doing that goods receipt can put in, we received 75, and then the invoice will still show that or the purchase order will still show there's 25 outstanding items that are due. So you can very easily look at all of your purchase requests, see which ones have been fully received, which ones still have items that are outstanding, which ones have been paid, bills have been paid on those purchase orders. And very, very easily, if you had to do that through a spreadsheet or do that just through word of mouth or through
Right.
emails, it would be incredibly difficult. So my recommendation is to get that operations where goods receipts are instantly logged in Team Procure, and you can put in how many items are received, if the bill's been paid, and you can even do partial payment of the bill, right? Maybe the supplier is requesting partial payment up front, so you can show that partial payment's been made. All those things are super critical to track to make sure it's that purchase order is, when the purchase order is closed out, you want to see a record of all the information that's been done, when the items were received, when they were received, when the bill was paid, and any communications on that purchase order can be made in the system as well.
So what you're saying is that most project management software doesn't have this capability, or at least a sophisticated capability. And there's, a bunch out there and they say they sort of manage it, but they really don't. And because
Yeah,
that's not their core, what they do. It's like a lot of their CRMs are not that great either because they're not a CRM
yeah,
company, project management company.
for sure.
So, as far as is it fairly easy user interface, and how long does it take for a small company that's going to be 10 employees
Yeah,
to get this actually in using it? Is it a month, a year? How long does it take to get it
yeah.
integrated?
Now you should be able to get onboarded in a small organization with just a few sessions. So we typically sit down with the customer, go through the key stakeholders in the organization, go through the approval processes that they may want to put into place, customize the kind of the request forms that the company would like to create, projects, budgets, give them a comfortable overview of how to do that. And the other thing which we have in the system is a kind of a catalog. So you can put items that you're ordering on a regular basis inside that catalog. So when you do a purchase request, you can go in and the purchaser can just type the name of the product and it'll start to show up and they can see, oh yeah, I
So
need some more
is
gloves
that
or whatever it
the
is.
chart of accounts in QuickBooks or something? Is that tied together?
Yeah, yeah, those products tie in with QuickBooks. So any items that are in there, you can tie into the products and you can just do the purchase request and type those items in and it will show up in the request form.
Okay, then Joe, what does this cost? Is it what's the typical cost or something like that?
Yeah, so Team Procure, our base start price is $250 a month. And that includes 3 full-time users in the organization. And then if they want to add additional users, it's $50 a month.
So
But
my
that
guess
those
is,
includes everything for the 250.
and that includes teaching them how to use it too, right?
Yep, full onboarding support, all that.
Because it seems to me like this is the problem that a lot of they've just never really organized their purchasing. They haven't got around to it because they haven't had time.
Yeah,
So this software would actually make them purchase like a larger company would and provide the information they need to make better purchasing. And if you're doing $1 million a year, if you save 10%, that's 100 grand a year. It's a significant amount of money that you can
yeah,
save doing this.
yeah,
Yeah, way more than
for
pays.
sure.
Sure. Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, I appreciate your time. So I would say that anybody that doesn't have their purchasing together, which is most people listening to this podcast, is my guess, give Joe a call. And there is a way now that you can organize your purchasing. It's like $250 a month is nothing. And if it's spreadsheets and emails, which it probably is, you can do way better, right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Glad to support any organization that's looking to improve their purchasing like in a system like Team Procure. And it's definitely, I think contractors will sleep better knowing they've actually got their ducks in a row when it comes to all of the purchase orders, goods receipts, supplier
And
management, all that.
the group, they're not that organized. So this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Joe,
Yeah.
I appreciate your time. Oh,
Thank
by the way,
you.
how do they get a hold of you, Joe, if they want to get in touch with you?
Teamprocure.com, and they can request a demo right on there, and we'll be glad to give them a one-on-one overview of the system and see how it can help them.
Okay, great, John. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate your time. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Bye.